Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Categorically Romance Podcast. My name is Bree, and joining me today is author Christine Rimmer. She is back. I am so happy to have you, Christine. Are recording this at the end of June, and
Mhm.
it's March of 2023. Like your first episode was 206, which aired in 2023. So it's been a minute. We've hit like the year mark. So, how has this year been for you?
Well, first of all, it's great to be here again. I really enjoyed chatting with you. It's been stressful. It's actually been a stressful year. We had bad weather this winter, which we're spoiled here in Portland, Oregon, and it never is that bad. But this was a week and a half of snowed in and frozen in, and about 2 days of no power and cold. And we don't have a fireplace with wood, or anything like that. So it was hard, but we got through it. And then we're gardeners, so then the garden was sad. But other than that, writing 3 books a year and loving my work and, family and all that is going well.
So, what did you do during the snowed in days? Like,
Um,
how'd you get through it?
we mostly wore 2 pair of socks, sat in the, well, actually, this is terrible, but we turned on, we turned on our gas stove and sat by it.
Isn't that like I think all the 'cause I'm in Texas and, a couple years ago, we went without power and it was I mean, we didn't have snow, but well, we had some snow, but it was, like, cold, and I just look back on that time and I'm like, "How did we get through it?" But it was like my husband and I were kind of fresh out of the military, so we had all these extra, like, under layer clothes that we could put
Yes.
on us and the kids, but I was like that was the instance where I was like, "Man, I wish I had a gas stove."
Yeah, well, it's so funny is they keep saying get these induction ones and all this stuff, and we thought about it, but then we think that is our option if it's ever really cold.
Yeah.
And so far we haven't blown up.
Yeah.
Yay! But it was the lifesaver because there was nothing else. We have a gas fireplace, but it doesn't work properly without the igniter, which is electric, and the batteries. It's always a problem. They're always dead by the time you put them in. So anyway, we made it.
Did it inspire or change your view of, like, snowed-in romance?
No, because they have something to do to keep themselves company, warm at all times. Now we've been married a long time, and there's some of that, but there's not like 24/7. Actually, I love snowed-in romances because there's a feeling that there's this challenge, and yet there's also intimacy developed from it. So they
Yeah.
were great.
It's the fantasy of it. I remember being like, "There's nothing romantic about this at all."
Exactly.
But then you can escape into a romance novel, and it's like, "Oh, it's not so bad."
Exactly.
Well, we are chatting your upcoming release, Redeeming the Maverick, which I have been loving all these like Maverick, like the continuity miniseries that we've been getting. So yours is going to be the book one in a whole new continuity called Trails to Tenacity.
Yes.
Can you share with us what the book is about?
Well, it is a reunion story and a coming home story. So it's really about all romances are about personal growth, but it really is about how characters can come back home and do things differently than they did before that broke up their family and made them leave, you
Mhm.
know. So I love the book because I love actually redeeming a hero. Now, he wasn't, I wouldn't say he did, when you say redeeming, you get this feeling like, what horrible things did he do? But he was just a very troubled young person.
Mhm.
And he couldn't cope with his very difficult father. Neither could his siblings. They didn't know what to do about him either. And his mother was kind of at her wits' end. And at 18, his solution was, I'm out of here. I can't do it. And now he's forced to come back, and what are his solutions now? And of course, at the same time, the girl he left behind because he had to leave has come back too. So they have parallel tracks of their self-discovery, and then they meet again in tenacity.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of fun writing it. Yeah.
How do you tap into I mean, I think coming home stories are so important because I think especially if you like me, for instance, I grew up in a small town and
Yeah.
I have this idea in my head that like, my God, I would never want to go back there. But, like, my mom has returned, my sister has returned, and, like, it just you have this sense of, like, if I ever need to, it is here.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is one of those places where you, like, you do wanna back in the day, you wanted to run away as fast as you could
Yeah.
from it. So, like, tapping into the now he's back, and, you did leave a past behind, and at small towns, they don't forget the person that you were once. Like, how did you kinda tap into that coming home for him? For both of them?
I think for both of them, it's a matter of, well, for her, I think her coming home is a little softer. She comes home more because of the heartbreak of her marriage, which I won't get into too much here talking about it, but she was married and they are divorced. And it was just the whole story of their marriage was very sad for him, for her, for what they couldn't have together. So
Mhm.
she, and I think still at the same time, there was always that feeling that because Hayes, the hero of the book, couldn't give her the space to be herself when he was like, I need somebody in my corner, and he made demands on her that she couldn't accept.
Mhm.
So when she comes back, she's softer toward the town. She does love her hometown. She left more for her career goals than because she had to get out or walk off a cliff somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think her coming home is softer and not quite so almost traumatic. His is difficult. He doesn't want to come home. And
Yeah.
he gets a call from, and his siblings are fed up too. And his sister actually keeps putting up with the dad, who's the problem. But she's now married and she's got so much going on. It's not fair to ask her to come save the ranch and the dad, who's very
Right.
sick. So, and then one of his brothers says, our other brother is off the grid. He's a soldier. And I can't take it. Once the father had this one son alone, he just was bad to him all the time. And so Braden, that's the brother, said, I've got to go. I'm out of here. I've got to have some space. And Hayes was still saying, no, no, no. But then his mother called him.
Yeah.
And, it got to the point where he realized, and he didn't want, they were going to probably lose the ranch, and he didn't want that. So he bucks up and goes home.
When you are writing a story like this, just hearing you talk about it, in a way, does it feel like the town itself is a character, like an important character in the story?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do. I'm very addicted to setting, which is one of the reasons I think I write a lot of the first books in the setting for Harlequin and these continuity series, because I will tend to really try to find, they give me some great things that are in the town and stuff that goes on, but I really look hard to find things that will echo what I see as the basic setup and what will echo my story, and with the ranch, I really wanted him to have been the real rancher in the family, but his father drove him away. So I kind of changed the original plan. That's the great thing about continuities is we have a great editorial team and they're flexible. I mean,
Mhm.
we all work together so that kind of all the authors and Harlequin gets what they want. So yeah, I changed him a little. So he was a rancher rather than just a flat out rebel. Get me out of here.
Yeah, yeah, and
You
now
know,
and needing to help save it.
yeah,
And
because it really is his home. He always thought, I'm leaving. I can't take it, but my family's there. I have two brothers. I have a hardworking sister. They'll work it out, and it will be the Hayes Ranch. Well, it's actually called the End of the Road Ranch, which he at times calls the end of my rope ranch.
yeah.
But he's felt that that would be there, that legacy of his family, even though he couldn't be around them. But then when he's faced with the fact that his dad could die and his family would lose the ranch, well, what choice did he have?
What choice did he have? Yeah.
Yeah,
And with special edition and the continuities, the focus being a lot on community, I think that's when, like, the small town feel can really feel special, and I love hearing you talk about how important setting is for you. So, like, when you sat down to start writing this book, like, visually, were you, like, finding pictures? Like, how did you set up the setting for yourself? Like, how did you really tap into creating this setting for Hayes?
Well, I think the Bible, I don't know if you've heard this word, but that is the overarching blueprint for the 6 book series. Okay. It's
Mhm.
called the Bible, and it's given to us by editorial. It's usually written with a lot of input from other editors by Marcia Book Adiram, who is an editor at Harlequin and she's just brilliantly talented and good at creating this real world landscape.
Okay.
So I just came to it thinking the description of tenacity was it's a hard scrabble town. And that word really got to me. Like hard scrabble, that's who these people are. Like they are tenacious.
Yeah.
They're holding on, by their fingernails. So it's a much tougher setting than our previous Montana Maverick setting, which was Bronco, and which we still use. We go back and forth. They're about an hour and a half's drive apart.
Mhm.
But tenacity is a drier part of the state. To make a ranch work there, you really have to be good at it and have a really good sense of ranch management and be level headed and patient and all the things that Hayes' father is not. So, yeah, I liked it because it was different than the other Montana Maverick settings we've had. I really appreciated that.
Well, from what I could see online, this is going to be a 6 book series. So you wrote book one, and then we have authors Stella Bagwell, Kathy Douglas, Joanna Sims, Heather Lee Bell, and Brenda Harlan. So how did the continuity, this one in particular, come across your radar? Like, and how did I think you already shared, but did you like when you all get the Bible, were
Mhm.
you like, oh, I want Hayes' story, and that's how you ended up doing number one, or what?
I always do number one. I have been. I mean, I have a long history with Montana Mavericks. I think I wrote the first one in late '90s,
Mhm.
and it was just one of many. I wasn't the first book. I was probably the third book in a 6 book unit of books, and I liked it. I enjoyed it, and then I went back to writing my own stories, completely conceived by me, and did that for several years. And then about 2005, I wrote a book called Stranded with the Groom, and that introduced Thunder Canyon, which was the third Montana Maverick setting. There
Mhm.
was Whitehorn, Rumor, Thunder Canyon. And it kind of just got to be once a year I would write the opening book in the bunch of books. So there would be 6 books and I'd write book one. It was sort of an organic process, if that makes any sense, that it worked out well for me to be in on the first one. I wanted to invent a lot of stuff to make the setting or the new series work for me,
Yeah.
and that worked for Harlequin. So we've had a good collaboration on that over the years, and I tend to write the first book in either a setting or the 6 book series.
Having done them for so long now, does doing book one just come so effortlessly, or do you ever feel any pressure with
Oh,
having
always.
book one?
You always feel pressure to how to make this work. I'm trying to get, because I really respect the editorial team on this. I feel that they really care and they really know what they're doing. And so I'm trying to get what they want, but mostly I have to get something that I can totally get behind.
Mhm.
So, for instance, the original picture of Hayes was much more like a bad boy, and my Hayes didn't turn out that way.
Yeah.
I
I mean, when
love
you hear the title, you think bad boy.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And he does need redeeming in the sense that he was not a hero when he left. He ran away. And now maybe he can be a hero. I mean, that's not what he's thinking. He's thinking I have to save the ranch because it's the family ranch. And if they aren't going to do it, I'm going to have to do it. That kind
But
of
this
thing.
all just makes him sound even more dreamy.
Exactly. I mean, he's
We
not.
love a little tortured there, like our
He
little
does.
tortured.
He is a little definitely toward. He's been widowed. He found someone. He married. She was a rancher's daughter. He was going to take over that ranch, and she died. So, you get the feeling like she wasn't Chrissy, but he had moved on. He'd grown up.
Yeah.
Chrissy Hayes is the heroine. I mean, Chrissy Hastings. So I just loved him, and I felt that he could be richer in that way. But that's how the Montana Mavericks works. I think you can't The authors who write for Montana Mavericks are taking what they're given and using it and figuring out a way to make it work in terms of an individualized story that will be their voice.
Yeah.
That's what Harlequin wants. That's what the writers want. That's what the readers want. So it works out. That's why it's been running. I mean, there's 180 of them or something that have been written. So
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask next. Like, for anyone that is listening and maybe has never read one, what do you think it is about these continuities, like the Montana Mavericks, that readers enjoy? And like, if someone hasn't read it yet, like, what do you think that the treat that they're in for?
I think it's the idea that you have a complete romance in each book. So you can get in, read the book, and walk away. If you can do it, good luck.
Mhm.
I mean, you can just read that one book. You could read any of the 6 books and get the full love story. But also threading all the way through the books are mysteries, hints about other characters developing, because so you get a feeling of a real community where
Yeah.
things are going on. People go missing. Will we ever find Winona Cobbs is an ongoing character who's been in the Montana Mavericks since the original setting, Whitehorn. And she's
Yeah.
kind of a mystical woman. She tells fortunes and gets couples together. And she's quite the senior citizen now in her 90s. But she has a boyfriend, and something has happened to her. We don't know where she is. So there's overarching mystery and overarching elements that where we're like, oh, I got to read the next one because I got to find out what happened to Bob, that kind
Mhm.
of thing. So they're really fun in that way. I think they're very appealing. Cowboys. What can I
Yeah.
tell you?
I'm loving to I feel like cowboy romance is having a moment. I feel like when I first started reading romance, I started with cowboy romance. So there's this part of me that's like, guys, cowboys have been great for a really long time, but I'm really happy that all of a sudden I'm seeing more and more romance readers that are like, I am loving these cowboy romances.
Yeah, there's
There's
something
just
about
something
that guy.
sexy about it.
Yeah. He's independent, he's solid, you feel like he can handle any situation,
Yes.
and he's going to be usually a straight ahead guy. Even the ones who are rebels with these high ethical standards in the
Yeah.
romances. So I agree with you. I think there's something untamed
Yeah.
just naturally, and we love that.
Yeah.
So
For you, like, creatively when you're writing and you're doing this, like, returning home story, what is, like, a is there one key point or, like, a couple of key points that anybody that's aspiring writer that's listening that you feel like this is kind of a key point to doing that type of story?
I really think the key point is usually you think of a coming home story as a journey home.
Mhm.
And that's because we actually see the journey back home, in many return stories. In a romance, we don't really see the journey. We see the guy come home, and then we learn about the journey and how he's changed in the process of the love story. So it's a slightly different take, but it's a personal growth story usually. So he wasn't ready to love Chrissy Hastings when he left.
Right.
She knew it. She said, I can't do it your way. I can't give up she was 1 year into college, and she went to see him in this little trailer he was living in this ranch he was working at. And he said, marry me now or we're done. And she's like, I can't. I'm yours. I love you. I'll be here. But I have to do my thing. He just wasn't ready. Is he ready now? That's the question.
Yeah.
How has he changed? And we don't get to see the return, but we have to really feel that we know the return in a good romance that's a return story.
And it's almost like they have to come back home to
Yeah.
find each other. Like, they wouldn't find each other, both of them being gone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, well, as a writer, I'm like, oh, that would be an interesting one.
Yeah, they just
Uh,
bump into each other at the airport, but
right. But in this story, definitely, because one thing that's also wonderful about the Montana Mavericks is the settings.
Mhm.
That the editorial creates the basic background for these settings, and they come alive. The towns come alive. For instance, Bronco, the last setting that we still go back and forth to now and then, is a two aspect town. It has almost two towns, Bronco Heights and Bronco Valley. And Bronco Heights is where all the power brokers and rich ranchers hang out. It's much bigger than Tenacity, much more prosperous, Bronco in general. And then in Bronco Valley is the salt of the earth people. They have two separate shopping areas, you know,
Yeah.
and it's just, you get a double feel of the different types of lives that go on there. Tenacity, there are some movers and shakers, but it's on a very small town scale.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, can you share a behind the scenes detail of writing the book?
Oh, this is, I don't know if this is a good one, but I'm going to give it anyway. In the material I was given in the Bible, it said that the hero had to come home because the ranch was in trouble and because his dad had broken his leg. Okay. And I didn't like it because I thought it wasn't enough, you know, a broken leg.
Yeah.
And then also, it just so happened that the next book that I'm going to have out when Christmas comes, which is a book that I wrote myself all the way through, the hero has to come home early because his dad broke his leg.
This is a
So
good
there
one.
are these logistic problems where you're going, I'm sorry, I just can't do that. We have too many broken legs here.
Yeah. This is a good one.
I came up with a really bad, pancreatitis problem. And it actually worked a lot better because he was really sick and it made him more sympathetic, the
Okay.
father. Because I was like, how can you make this guy? I mean, if you read the material I was given, the guy is so unsympathetic. It's like, who's going to ever want to forgive him? You know?
Yeah.
So that was really my job, was to get that to happen. So you felt that Lionel, that's the father, meant well. He was just a bad, bad executor of
Yeah,
his
the
love.
execution of it was bad.
So yeah, anyway, I like to change things up that to me don't work. Now, what's funny is somebody could have taken the broken leg and made it great. It just didn't work for me. And that's what is wonderful about the whole Montana Mavericks process, is there is a lot of room for the authors to say, this, I just, I either did it 5 minutes ago or, it just doesn't work for me to make this whole story work. And everybody's flexible to make it work. We work together, the authors and the editorial.
When you all get the Bible, is like I don't know. Is the conflict kind of laid out for you already?
It's more in terms of the trope.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And it is, so no, I mean, it's like, this is going to be this kind of story. This is going to be this kind of story. And we don't step on each other's feet on that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to all of a sudden say my heroine should be pregnant, because pregnant heroines are very popular. And I can almost be sure somebody else in the 6-book series has a pregnant heroine.
Somebody will do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I can't change the dynamic of their life situation too much.
Okay.
If that
Okay.
makes sense.
So when you look at it, you see the trope and then the conflict kind of unfolds on, like, you come up with, like, that's all in the writing.
Yeah, and the planning. See, I plot with a fellow writer. She and I were originally in a group, a fellow romance writer. Well, actually, she writes mostly women's fiction now, but she created this plot group and this whole way to plot that's brilliant. And we had 5 or 6 people in the group meeting for a long weekend. And over time, over the years, it just got to be the two of us, and we plot. And if there's during COVID, we plotted on Zoom. Now we try to get together twice a year. So I work with her to fix any holes, that don't work, or she helps me see what maybe I wouldn't see. I think with writing, to me, I started out, I did everything myself, and I turned it into my editor, and she said, this will work or this won't. Mm-hmm. But it's much richer when you are able to listen to other people to tell you, well, we need this, or I can't see, I don't think for instance, I don't think the mother should be the problem. Mothers should only be a problem if you've got a really good reason for it, kind of stuff like that, because you have to think about, this is popular writing, and it has to be tasty. It has to be uplifting. So you want to be sure not to drag it down too much too. At the same time as you have to have real conflict that people can get involved in and want to see it work out. So it's all these balls in the wall, in the air at a time, and it's very challenging and exhausting, and also very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, your next title from it on Fiction Database, it's so far titled When Christmas Comes. I hope that remains the title because I love it. But
It
can you
is.
tell us anything about it?
Yes, this is in my ongoing Bravo family series. Um, it- I wanted to do a couple of books, age gap romances. So the Bravo story before it, Taking the Long Way Home, is older woman, younger man.
Mhm,
And they're about 13, 14 years apart. And she's a librarian, he's a chainsaw artist and rancher. This one is older man, younger woman. And I loved it because he is a guy. It was interesting. My husband helped me with this because I wanted him to be a hard driving real estate CFO in New York City. And they have a ranch in Wyoming. And he's coming home for the summer to try to get to know his kids because he's been so busy driving himself. He's kind of lost track with his real life. But he's also very charming. We have this idea in romance that go-getting alpha heroes are also alpha holes, but you
mhm.
can't be a complete alpha hole and get stuff done, unless your dad owned the business. So anyway, he's a charming guy, but he's not been connecting well with his family. And this is where the father falls out the window. The funny thing is the father's a rancher in Wyoming, and he supposedly went up to the retirement community in a neighboring town to play bingo on Friday night. But interestingly, he fell out the window on Saturday morning. So what happened there? And the hero comes home to help him, and he needs a nurse to look after his broken leg thing. And that's where the heroine comes in. She's 24. She's a travel nurse straight from the wilds of Bolivia, where she was injured very badly. And her whole goal in life is to be working and helping where the need is the most. So here he is, a go-getter, moneymaker, has trouble relating to his family, and she's like exactly the opposite and young. Plus, he's very proud of the fact that he would never take a quote unquote trophy wife. He has girlfriends. They all know he's never getting married again. He's very upstanding in his idea of how things work. So I had a lot of fun with it. And through the whole book, as they get closer and as they decide to have, where they go with their relationship, they're saying when Christmas comes, you'll be gone and we'll never see each other again. So that's where the
Wow.
title comes from.
Well, I mean, I feel like I know the answer to this, but are you working on anything now?
Now I'm actually writing the next Montana Mavericks. That's coming next. Well, actually, no, I have to just finish. It's all kind of overlapping, so that's why I sound like I don't know what I'm doing. But
You always know what you're doing. I have full faith that you know what you're doing.
so now I'm finishing up another Bravo story, and that one will go to my editor within a couple weeks. And then after that, I start the next Montana Mavericks, which is the first book in another 6-book series. Montana Mavericks, though, are available new. I mean, a new book comes out every month now. So they
Yeah,
have
that's so
two
cool.
6-book series every year. So you really have a lot of places to jump in. And as I said, anybody could jump in anywhere and you still get a full story.
Is the book you're working on now for the next 6 books, are we getting a new town or are we
Yeah,
returning
we'll still
somewhere?
be in tenacity,
Okay.
and we're digging deeper. Usually, when they create a new town, it's good for several years of developing that town.
Okay.
The
Okay.
next series is going to be about who runs the town, I kind of think, the one that I'm going to be
Oh.
starting next. So, yeah, in fact, here's a little jewel. I wanted the heroine, because the heroine's dad in Redeeming the Maverick seems to really have a lot of clout in town when things go wrong. I thought, oh, he should be the mayor.
That's what I was
And
just thinking. It's like,
yeah,
is he the mayor?
and he's the mayor. Exactly. And then and it was approved at first. And then all of a sudden, Susan Littman, the head editor, got back to me and said, we can't do that. I just talked to Marcia. She's got a whole mayor thing going on next season. Oh no! So we made him run the feed store, which in a town like this makes sense. That
Yeah, it very important, yeah.
exactly. So that kind of stuff happens all the time, and that's really fun. It's like we all. This is actually a real place.
I know, it does feel real.
Exactly. So it's very challenging and fun. That's what I would call it. And from having been writing for all these years, I need to feel we want to deliver the romance promises to our readers, but we also have to feel inspired ourselves, or it's going to get flat. And that's another thing the Montana Mavericks do for me is they give me new challenges to how to work with my co-writers and my editors to make this thing the best it can be. It's fun.
Well, can you plug all of the places where we can keep up with you online?
Oh, yes. My website, christinerimmer.com, and you can look there where it says stay informed and join my newsletter, and I'll send you information whenever I have new things going on. And Facebook and Christine Rimmer, maybe Christine Rimmer author, but if you just plug in my name, it comes up. And I have an Instagram page that I'm not as good at keeping up as I should, but I do have one. So look me up on Instagram too.
Well, I will have links to all of those, all the places where readers can keep up with you and where we can get copies of your books. And you have to come back. It's always so lovely to catch up with you. And thank
I
you
will.
for sharing
So
your
great
time.
to talk to you.
Thank you for sharing your time with us today.
Bye. Thank you.